Now, oh, here we go. Welcome back, everybody, for this another installment of the National Public Library's Career and Entrepreneurship series. And today, I am most delighted to have with us Miss Dorothea Nelson. Hello, Mrs. Nelson.
Hi, my dear. Good morning, everybody. Glad to be here.
Mrs. Nelson. Now, many of you may not know, but hopefully you do. Mrs. Nelson is the former director of the National Public Library. She would have been my first boss, and I guess that makes her my favorite. Mrs. Nelson has been an educator for the past, how many years, Mrs. Nelson?
Well, my darling, must be over 30 years. Over 40 years, maybe.
Yeah, Mrs. Nelson has been an educator for many years, and she would have had the opportunity to have been a part of the education system here in Antigua and Barbuda from long before we would have knew it. So, Mrs. Nelson, if you would be so kind, what made you want to become a teacher, an educator?
I grew up at a time when, um, even though people were poor, I suppose maybe because people were not wealthy, and the idea of contributing to your community, of building your community up, was prevalent in Antigua. That is the time that I grew up. And so the idea of growing up to give back, because people invested so much in you. And when I say invested, not necessarily money, but time and effort and love and care. We loved our teachers. And that was what spurred me to want to give back. I thought I would do it in nursing or teaching, but then I have a problem with blood and so on, and so I soon realized that nursing was not for me, and I opted for teaching.
Mrs. Nelson, how old were you when you started teaching?
I was 23. I had I didn't start teaching. Most people from my time would say they started teaching when they were 14, and not me. I did teach while I was a student. So I did teach when I was a teenager, but the system, getting into education as an educator, I started when I was 23. So
What
that is a
were the
giveaway
entry
right away, because now people will know how old I am.
What were the entry requirements for teaching like back in those days?
Oh, in those days, it wasn't anything. Honestly, it was, I look back at the time, I appreciate it, but I know it's not the best. But there were structures in place to assist a novice teacher that are not in place anymore. I started teaching at 23 without training, without, at the time, I only had 2 GC subjects, English and history. So, in other words, I didn't even have the qualifications demanded by UE for me to go to teacher training college.
Wow.
But I was placed with 2 teachers who had just been trained. And I had to work with them for, I think, the entire school year before I was given my own class to teach.
Makes sense.
So the structures was there, even though you were not trained, you were still able to teach.
Was that a time where you taught every subject as long as you had a class, or was it more of a subject specific?
I loved it. I loved it because if you have an inquiring mind, even if you're not familiar with the subject, like nowadays when I hear teachers saying they can't do math in particular, because math seems to be a huge problem for everybody. When I hear teachers saying that they can't do math, When I started teaching, I couldn't do math either, but you have the curriculum, you have to teach it, so you learn. You put yourself out, you teach yourself to do things that you have to teach children. And that was how I learned math and science and so on. So yeah, you had to teach everything in the primary school. It wasn't like in the secondary school. There was no subject teaching and in primary schools at that time.
What grade level did you come in teaching at?
I started with infants. In those days, it used to be infant one. That would be,
Infant.
I suppose, equivalent to kindergarten. But it was infant. You had infant one and you had infant two and then junior one. So as a result, I've taught every class in the primary school except for what we call junior 5, which is now grade 6, and junior 1, which would be grade 1, I think.
Interesting. During your 25 years of teaching, I can imagine, as a person with such an inquisitive mind and a love for learning, that you would have gone on various training opportunities. You would have taken every opportunity that was available for you for training. What kind of courses and seminars did you go on during that time that you think reinforced your love for teaching?
That's a good question, because honestly, there was much available in terms of workshops and so on. But it's not like now. There was much available in terms of workshop and things organized by the ministry for novice teachers. Like now, you're going into teaching with certain qualifications, and they still will have a seminar to kind of give you an idea of what is expected. We didn't have those things, but I also taught craft and home economics. I taught at New Winthrop School, and in those days it was a post-primary school. It had from infants right up to post-primary, and we had a home ec center, a woodwork center, and I taught craft. I was both a classroom teacher and a specialist, a craft and home ec teacher. And Gwen Tong was responsible for home economics, and she used to kill us with workshops. She really opened the door. I've been to so many workshops at Princess Margaret that she would organize for her home ec teachers. And not only that, she used to come out to the school as well to monitor what was happening and to give you ideas about how to approach things. And I don't remember the name of the lady who was responsible for craft, but she used to do the same thing. So I learned a lot. And then when I finally got the qualifications to go to teacher training college, because in those days, they had not yet introduced the system where people could get teacher training without qualifications. You had to get those subjects that were required by UE. So when I finally got those subjects and was able to go to teacher training, you studied everything for the primary school, for primary school teaching and learning, content, method, every craft, every single one, cane work, straw work, anything you can think about. Everything we were taught at teacher training. And so music, everything.
I didn't know you were a musician, Miss Nelson.
And you had to learn. You ever hear about this instrument made from wood named the glockenspiel?
Yes.
We had to make those, and they showed us how to make music with bottles, put in certain levels of water, and you get the do, re, mi, fa, so and so on. Things
Oh.
that you can use with children if you don't have a piano,
Ah.
and so music was an integral part of education in those days. And so like I said, we had to do everything. You taught music, science, social studies, art, art, and craft, and English, maths, everything else.
Is that where you fell in love with crochet?
Well, my mother was a crocheter. She was a craft person. She was a seamstress, and she could crochet and do all kinds of things.
Mm.
And I got fascinated with it because of her. But she never felt that she could teach us because she was left-handed and I was right-handed. So
Mm.
I actually learned to crochet in school as a student.
Oh, interesting. What would you say would have been your favorite subject to teach at that time in your K to 12 time?
I don't know. I loved it all. I don't know. I love teaching, and I love teaching all of the subjects. I like teaching science where you set up experiments and so on for children.
Mm.
I can remember taking my class out with a magnifying glass and they put it in the sun and they see how the sunlight would hit the magnifying glass and burn paper, set things on fire and so. Yeah, and um, taking them out for social studies, doing a lot of field trips and so on. I love teaching.
It shows because when I would have met you when I first came to the public library, you would have been the first person to instruct me. Although I would have done library skills, you would have been the first person to instruct me on all of the ways of library work, the cataloging, the classification, and those things in the background. And it was difficult, but the way you taught it made it very easy for me to understand, and it spoke to your skill as an educator. And knowing that you loved educating so much and teaching and the interactions with students, why did you decide to leave the classroom and go and become the librarian at the library?
Well, tell you the honest truth, the decision was not mine. Um, when After I left teacher training college, I taught at TN Kernan School for years. One of the skills I developed at the time was doing choral speaking. So we won prizes and so on. And I don't know if it's the amount of talking, and as a result of that, I developed a problem with my throat. And
Oh.
so I had to give up teaching, but I didn't want to leave the teaching setting. So
Mm.
I asked to be transferred into school libraries. And I worked in school libraries for a few years. And then I went off to Barbados to finish my first degree.
Mm.
And when I came back, I went back into teaching, not into libraries. I taught at Pease Secondary and Princess Margaret Secondary. I taught English language and English literature.
Mm.
And so then I became a one subject teacher after doing my first degree.
Mm.
And Miss Mayers, who was the chief librarian at the time, it was time for her to retire and they couldn't get anybody to replace her. They couldn't get
Mm.
anybody with an interest in libraries to
Mm.
replace her. And I remember they kept asking me if I'd be willing to go into the library. And I kept saying, no, I don't want to leave teaching and so on. And eventually I just told myself, maybe it's the Lord's will.
Mm.
that maybe I can contribute something in that way. And that is where I need to be. And so I went to the public library in
Mm.
1998.
What was the library like at the time when you would have first arrived? Because I would have arrived much later than that, and I know that the old location was, it was
Well,
ram-packed with all kinds of things.
girl, when I went to the library, it was basically a place for people to come to borrow books
Mm,
and return. That was it.
mm,
But when I read about libraries, because um, as a if the way I see it, if I'm going to take over something, if I'm going to do something, I
mm,
whatever I put my hand to, I want to know that I can have an impact, that I do my best to carry it forward. And one of the things I said to them when I went to Public Service Commission to do the interview is that even though I have worked in libraries, I actually have no library training. And so I would need some kind of training in order to function efficiently.
mhm,
And yes, they heard me, but I went. I applied to do my master's in library management, and I never heard anything about getting a scholarship. And I was understudying Miss Mays for a year.
mm,
So I went and took out a loan and did my master's in library management so that I knew what I was about.
mm,
And little by little, we began to take steps to change the library
mm,
and to at the time they had already started construction on the new library, and I was not satisfied with what I saw of the plans.
mm,
So I had to go to several meetings of the building committee
mm.
and make my ideas
Displeasure
known.
known.
Let them know what I did not like and what needed to happen. Um, for example, there wasn't any accommodations made for people with disabilities, none whatsoever. They did not plan to have an elevator. They planned to have all those stairs and so on, and no ramps. They did not plan to have shelves located in such a way that somebody with a wheelchair can pass through.
Mm,
And they did not plan for the children the way I thought they should be catered for.
mm,
So ultimately, you see that reading room they have at the back, that was
mhm,
not in the original plan.
mm,
That was something they put on after I spoke with them. And and that big reading room downstairs was not to be a reading room. We made a lot of changes where we have the
mm,
reference area and so on. That was not what it was planned for. And there was nothing where Miss Spencer is no that would that deputy thing, and where Miss Warren is, where you're supposed to do repairs and so on. All that wasn't in the plan. So we got them and they agreed. I appreciate that I got to
mm,
work with people who were open to criticism.
mm,
And Miss McGinley was willing to make those changes and so on. And that is how we come to have what we have today. At the same time, we worked in the library to develop, um, to computerize the place.
mm,
Even though it was small, we know it was small and congested. that little place could do quite a lot with the use of technology and so on. And so we worked on that.
Mm. Because I remember when I came in, we had just began the process of switching over from a manual borrowing system to the digital Alexandria system, which
Mm-hmm.
I guess was very lucky for me, because then I got the privilege of learning both systems, and it gave me a deep appreciation for how for the transition period and all of the work that would have gone behind it to make it so seamless. Because most times persons come into the library and they see you, they think all you do is click click and that is it, and they think that you sit there for the whole day and there's nothing at all to do. And I must admit, when I first came, I didn't know what to expect. I was like, Lord, I'm going to die of boredom here. And I told myself, at least they're books, because I've always loved to read. I was already a member of the library before I came to work there. And I read everything in the children's department, like literally read everything. I ran out of things to read, but I was too young to move over to the adult department. And my mother said she was not going to stand up and sign out books for me for that. So, it's always interesting, especially now looking back at the way we would have thought of librarian work and where it is now. I mean, at the beginning, when you first came in, would there have been programs geared towards getting more persons in and educating persons through the library? Because I know you'd said that it was just basically a check in, check out. But how did that change over the years?
Well, like I said, we automated the library.
Mm.
You always have, of course, it's a library, so you would always have people accessioning material. You would always have people cataloging, but
Mm.
now the cataloging now changed from the manual system to the automated cataloging. I think
Mhm.
that people I don't really understand library work, but what I would like your audience to know is that librarians, a fully trained librarian, is a professional in
Yeah.
in places like the States and Canada and England, well, particularly in North America.
Mm.
The library degree is a master's degree. You're not
Mhm.
considered a librarian without a degree. And
Mm.
it's something that people in Antigua need to understand. It's not
Mm.
everybody behind the counter is a librarian,
True.
because people feel all they need to do is sit behind a counter and because they work in library, people call them librarians. But that is not so. In
Mm.
England, you can become a librarian with a first degree, that which most of us would have done. You become a
Mhm.
librarian with a first degree. In the United States, you have to do a first degree in something else and
Mhm.
then do the library degree as a master's degree. It's librarians are professionals
Yes.
and their work is tedious.
Very much.
Books don't just appear on the shelf by magic.
Yeah. A lot
I
of
mean,
people I find they don't understand, and even if you try to explain it to them, they still don't have an appreciation for what is there. Because I mean, if I had a dollar for every time somebody told me I was going to be replaced by Google, I could afford to retire.
which is another thing that people do not understand. The function of a library, how critical a library is to
Yeah.
society.
Yeah.
And especially what you're finding now is that a library offers so much more than um, than what maybe people used to deal with in days gone by. A library is not just a place to go and borrow a book.
Mm-hmm.
If you're studying, depending on what assignments you're doing and so on, you need to get valid data. People think it's okay to just go on Google and copy and paste. No, you can't be studying at university level and hand up that kind of crap to a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get material that can be validated. And where can you get it? Either the university library, the college library, or at the public library. And how do those materials get on the shelf? People have to be working behind the scenes, cataloging, classifying. This goes with this goes where, checking shelves to see what is missing. We don't have anything to cover this. I mean, it's constant monitoring and working. And I hope that my saying so will open some eyes, because I know, when I remember when I was growing up, I used to go mission, and they had testimony night, one night a week. So I suppose I'm giving my testimony. This is my testimony. I can attest to the fact that library work is important, it is necessary, and there's so much more. A library is a place that offers an opportunity for education.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more. Libraries offer, they can do workshops. It's a place where,
Mm-hmm.
upstairs of that library, we have a conference room. People can
Mm-hmm.
come in to teach something. It,
Mm-hmm.
it I mean, a library is supposed to be a place that is alive and active in the
Yeah.
life of the community. And if the library is active in the life of the community, Google can't replace it.
Yeah. I mean, just thinking about the additional services and programs we provide. This program right here, because this program was born of a need for persons to understand what it took to exist in various careers and what it took to start their own careers as entrepreneurs, and how they needed to approach it all. And that is something that you could have Googled it. But because we're local and because we're here and we understand you and we understand the systems that are at play here, we are in a better position as library staff, as program coordinators, because it's more than just books. We have to plan and execute programs and fundraise and do all of these things. These are the things that are necessary. And I feel sometimes a lot of persons don't value those things at all. I mean, even the summer reading program. I mean, in addition to simply, you know, being about reading, you learn all kinds of different things. You learn activities and crafts. For some persons, it's just a place to park the children. But as a person who would have participated before, you begin to realize that this is a place you meet friends. This is a place to grow. This is a place you learn knowledge. You get talents that you didn't know you had. And I don't think a lot of people understand the value of libraries anymore. Um,
Well,
I mean, all good things must come to an end, Mrs. Nelson. You would have been at the library for 13 years, and I'm sure that there must have been some particularly rewarding projects for you. What would those have been?
apart from the fact, I think for me, it's always what I can do to touch the lives of others. What can I do to make things better for people,
Mm-hmm.
both for the Antiguan community and the people who work with me?
Mm-hmm.
So, being able to get library staff trained both in house and getting people with qualifications to get their degree. I think when I look back, that has been a very rewarding thing for me. I can look back and I can say, you know, when I left the library, when I went to the library, nobody was there with a degree.
Mm.
And when I left, this number of people had a degree. And I know that I've touched their lives and that they now can, in turn, hopefully always pay it forward. We don't think of conditions, we don't allow conditions that we work in to keep us from contributing. We still do what we can do to move people's lives forward. Um, I think automating the library was another huge project.
Mm.
Remember when I went to the library, I didn't know much about computers either, you know, but because I really, anything that I want to do, I see it as an opportunity to learn. I don't remember the name of the gentleman, but it was a gentleman who worked with me. I'd tell him, look, I want the library didn't have a website.
Mm.
So that was the first thing. I told him I want to develop a website, and he knew how to do it. But I was the one who did the work, and so he would tell me what to do and what software to use, and we between the two of us, I mean, ultimately, I got the library has a big website. And then
Mm.
it was from there to automating the library to bringing in. I got Peace Corps to come in and train library staff and in the technology. And because I recognize that in Antigua, if you don't have this thing on site, you're in serious trouble in terms of maintenance. And so we got people within the library trained in computer technology. And then I was asked to help Abbott with their library, and we made a deal. Look, I will help you. You don't have to pay me anything, but I want these two people who already had that basic computer training. I want them to get their associate's degree in computer technology, and that was the way we did things so that people could improve themselves. And
Mm.
I think if I were to be asked what is the biggest thing that I did, apart from those things, it would be putting together um, putting a staff in the framework for a staffing structure so that there's upward mobility in the library based on people's qualifications. I got that done. And that is there that people know if I want to be a librarian, this is what I need to do, or I can be an assistant, library assistant, or whatever, what the qualifications are and what I need to do. I think, and that it is connected with salary. So I think I made a big difference where that is concerned.
You did, you did. And I just want to take this opportunity to personally thank you for pushing me for going further. Because, I mean, it's very easy to stagnate and stay where you are. And in as much as I am a lover of learning, it would have been a bit, it seemed daunting at the time to go further. And I just want to thank you for encouraging me to going out there and getting the first degree and encouraging me in fine tuning my skills and also for making it possible for me to hold the position that I hold at this time. It's your benefit to me has been immeasurable, your impact on my life. And I'm sure the lives of many persons over the years thus far would have been immeasurable. And you can't see it, but Miss Hunt is here making big heart signs at you in the background. But in as much as we would have loved having you here, Mrs. Nelson, we knew that the time would come eventually and you had to go. And it was no surprise to us that when you left that you continued to pursue learning and education. Tell us about the process of obtaining your PhD in educational research.
Okay, I started the degree with Walden University. Walden is an online university. No discredit to Walden, because um, I think Walden really put me on track for the PhD. But that is where I started. But I found it. Um, I decided to go on campus to do my degree, and so I was accepted by the University of Calgary and offered a half scholarship. Um, I can push it. I can say to people, if you want to do your PhD, University of Calgary is a good place to go, because once you're accepted, their thing is very competitive, because not a lot of people, they have a limited number of people who they will accept to do a PhD. It's very competitive. You know, when you go to a place and you say, Lord, I wonder if, what am I doing here? And you might think, how would I accept somebody like me? The professors and some would tell me over and over, hey, you don't question yourself, because we all meet and we look at people's application and we decide who we want, who we are selecting. It's not a helter-skelter thing. But once you are accepted to do the PhD, the first year, your tuition, not room and board, but the tuition is covered totally for the first year and half for the second at the University of Calgary. I can't speak for other universities in Canada, but I know University of Calgary, that is what obtains. And so I was accepted and I went to do my PhD. I don't know. I didn't find it difficult. I did well.
Clearly.
I did well. I made 1 A- in my courses, 1 A+, and all A's for my other courses. And then I did my PhD, my dissertation. I did my dissertation on libraries, because I'm still concerned that people are working in libraries and have no training. So my dissertation was focused on how can we go about providing courses and training to library staff.
Library staff. Why educational research, Mrs. Nelson?
Because I'm still an educator. I'm always an educator. Even, no matter where I am, if I work in library, if I work, no matter where I am, I'm always an educator. That is why I don't know. Maybe that is why when I came to library, one of the first things I did, I remember, I started teaching library staff English for them to do CXC. That was one of the first things I did when I came. And then I started teaching, doing in-house teaching for in library skills, because I really think that people cannot function well. Of course, people can function, because if you tell them what to do, they will do it. But people cannot function well without training. If you want the best, then you have to train your people.
Agreed. So what happens now, Mrs. Nelson? You are now Dr. Dorothea Nelson. You've conquered teaching. You've conquered library. What's new and what now, Mrs. Nelson? What are we going forward to do?
Well, no, my interest is totally in online technologies, in online teaching, because teaching is still where I am, but I really love teaching online.
Mm.
So I teach English for academic purposes with the University of the West Indies, and I volunteer with
Oh no. Miss Nelson, are you still there? Oh my, it seems we've frozen.
Oh, I do that.
Mhm.
I do that, and then I'm still studying. I'm doing a certificate course with the University of Illinois,
Mm.
and the name of that certificate is Master Online Teacher. So that is what I'm doing now.
How are you planning to put all of these additional skills and education to work, Mrs. Nelson?
Well, well, it will be used once as long as I'm teaching online.
Mm.
Um, I'll always need everything that I'm learning. I'll need it, depending because I can teach education courses.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
can teach English courses. I can teach research methodology, and so on. But I would like to pass on what I have gained, maybe to impact the lives of other teachers. I
Mhm.
realize that we're having a problem right now with our online teaching,
Mhm.
and if that is something I would like to assist in changing.
I'm seeing we have a few messages here. I see that Miss Natasha Lay is saying hi, teacher. So I'm going to
Oh,
assume that you
yeah, I taught her when she was little.
you taught, and she's now here at the National Public Library too. Also, Miss or Mrs. Roxanne Gardner is also giving her greetings and saying that you're a remarkable woman and a role model to her.
Oh, yeah, I taught her when she was little too. Mhm.
I can only imagine how many people you would have taught Mrs. Nelson. Mrs. Nelson, I say on behalf of everybody that we are grateful to have had you. We're grateful to still have you. And we want to thank you for being an inspiration to us and showing us that even after we would have retired, that there's still more that we can do. There's more that we can give, and there's always more to learn.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I hope that that tells you now that each of you can go on and do your master's,
Yes, Mrs. Nelson.
because, it's important. I love education, and you can never stop learning. You're
No.
never too old to learn. You know, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Mm,
I'm not going to call myself a dog, but not this one here. I really believe that learning is continuous, it's lifetime.
mm.
It's an investment, but it's a lifetime investment.
Again, Miss Nelson, we just want to say thank you very much for coming out today. It was a pleasure having you.
You're welcome, my dear. Glad to be here too.
All right, everybody, that's it for today's episode. We're going to ask you to join us back next week where we will be having Miss Abby Taylor, who is talking to us about running the business donut days. See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.